Hi, First Tee Birdie participants. I'm Tammy Palmer, Program Director of the First Tee of the Golden Isles. And again, with me today is Coach Mason Scott. And we're on core lesson number 20. And that is getting to your goal. We've talked a lot about goals for this class. And, we briefly mentioned, the idea of a ladder, a goal ladder, right? And so, when you think of a ladder, like how do you plan out your goals thinking of that concept?
So the goal ladder is, when making those goals, you have to start at the bottom and then work your way up. So that bottom rung is that first little accomplishment that you have to do before you can work your way up. You can't just jump from the bottom rung all the way up to the top. You've got to complete those steps in between to get to the ultimate goal that you have for yourself.
Yeah, I love that visualization because I'm very process oriented. And so if I can see, okay, this is step one, this is the bottom rung, this is what I need to achieve to get to that next one and then the next one. I like checking those boxes. Yep. And hopefully you guys are like that too. Well, can you give us an example of how you've used a goal ladder to achieve a goal that you've accomplished already?
Yeah, one of the first goals that I kind of set for myself was when I first started playing golf. So I was really new to it, and I had practiced before but never really was serious about it. But this was when I wanted to become serious, and I was shooting probably in the hundreds, and I wanted to make my ultimate goal, that very top rung of the ladder, and my goal was to get my handicap down to 10. That was my goal. And I said I wanted to do that in 2 years. That was the goal from starting. So that first rung, the very first goal that I had set for myself was I was going to write out a practice schedule. So I was going to be specific and say I'm going to practice on this day, this day, this day, and just have it written down so I know I had a specific time and date that I could go practice. And then that next rung was setting the goal of I wanted to get my handicap down to an 18 in 6 months. So that was my goal. So that was that second step. So I've written down every time I want to practice, and then actually going to practice and then trying to get to that 18. And then the next step of that ladder was to bring it down a little bit more to a 15. And then I started writing down a little bit more specifics with my practice. So instead of just the days I want to practice, I wrote down what I was going to practice each time. And then I would go and practice and focus on those things and try to reach down to a 15 handicap. And then the next goal was bring it down even more to a 12. And the same thing, I was being more specific with what I was practicing and focusing on, and I was playing a little bit more and able to see where I needed to work on instead of just practicing putting. Even though I was good at putting, I needed to practice my drivers because when I played on the course, I wasn't hitting them well. So I was playing more and writing down what I was working on, what I was doing well, what I was not doing well. And then lastly, that last goal was to get that handicap down to a 10. And after completing all those steps, all the way from the basic of just writing down a day to go practice to all the way up to specific things that I'm going to work on in my swing, I was able to accomplish that goal in the time frame that I set for myself.
So as you were discussing that, I was just visualizing that ladder, and I was visualizing, that goal that you set at the top was your outcome goal, right? That was your ultimate goal. And then it sounded like each of those rungs were your performance goals, right? You wanted to achieve like a lower handicap for each level. But then you also had process goals in between each of those rungs from one to the other. You had those like process goals that are just allow you to get to that next performance goal, right?
Yep.
So I love that. It's a great visualization of that. I love it. So now, can you tell me a little bit, as you're planning these goals, and we've talked about this in previous lessons, what you should be focusing on your energy on in these goals?
The two things that you want to focus on, first one being things that are in your control, what you can control. So the way you're acting, the way you're thinking, not what other people are saying about maybe what your goal is or how they're reacting or how they're playing if you're playing in a competitive scene. And then that next part is making those goals and those steps something that you want. You're doing it for yourself because you want to get better. You want to reach that goal. It's not because you're trying to compete with anybody else or going off of whatever everyone else is telling you to do. It's what you want to do ultimately, and it's what you want to achieve.
So sometimes I think, we have sometimes might set goals that are based on what someone else is advising us to do. And, what I have found is it's a little harder to achieve something unless you're doing it for yourself. Do you have that experience as well?
Yeah, I feel like the passion for trying to reach it isn't there if it's someone else's goal for you. So if someone wants you to do this, you may follow the steps and you may reach that goal, but you may not enjoy yourself while doing that. And by the time you reach your goal, you really don't feel like you accomplished anything because it wasn't what you really wanted to do. So when you set those goals that are something specific to you and important to you, then when you're working your way through, it's a process and you continue to want to get better and better. And then when you finally reach that goal, you kind of have that sense of accomplishment that you did what you wanted to do.
Yeah, and it feels pretty good, right? And I think, that gives us more confidence when we start to achieve those goals, and it makes it a little easier the next time we set another goal for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's something bigger than what we just achieved, but I think it gives us more confidence that we got through that, and then we just dream on and make a new, bigger and better goal. So I love that. So guys, that was core lesson number 20, and that is getting to your goal and the goal ladder. We will see you guys next week.